Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Mastering Retention Podcast. I'm Tom Hammond, your host and co-founder of UserWise. Um, Today, we actually have a very special episode. I have never actually had a user acquisition expert on the podcast today, but today we've got Varia from Sheepyard. So really excited to dive into the world of UA and go through all the details that you wish product people knew more about from a user acquisition perspective, because I think it is such an important part of our industry today, and yet a lot that product people don't really know about goes on behind the scenes. So I'm excited to pull back the veil a little bit today and dive in. But before we do, Varia, can you kind of tell us, like, how did you get here? How did you end up working in games? Like, what's your story?
First of all, hi Tom. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest on your podcast. It's really nice. And I've been watching some of your podcasts, and great people were invited, great insights. A little bit about myself. Varia, as you mentioned, I work at Sheepyard. It's a startup company. We're based in Poland. And we have a lot of different games, like within different genres. And how I started my career, I actually was studying in China, and I'm from Russia. So yeah, I've been traveling a lot. I was, I think I can call myself lifelong player. I was playing all the time games, like for different reasons, just to relax or uh, to hang out with friends. And actually, the first gift of my father when I was like adult, it was like PlayStation. So yeah, I was always a gamer, I can say. And but I never saw that I can like actually work in the game industry. Like I always liked games, but never thought of this. And actually, my sister, she'd been living in Poland for quite a long time, and her husband worked in Boombit company. It's also based in Poland, and game dev. They develop mobile games. And yeah, I was kind of like tired of China. I wanted to try something new, and I visited Europe, Poland. I was like in love with this place. And there was a chance because my brother-in-law work in game industry, and we figure out it's nice for me to start like to try it. I didn't know anything about game dev industry, so it was like really from the scratch. I enjoyed it. Like when I started to work, and it was some challenges, of course, learning. And I was lucky to meet some nice folks from the industry who actually helped me in some questions. And yeah, it was like really fun, and in the other side, challenging. That's how I started. I think it was like kind of 4 years ago, something like this. And I stayed. I changed then a couple of companies, and lucky me, I came to Shipyards, like these really cool people. And yeah, that's really briefly of me
Yeah, so
into.
you kind of got into it at Boombit, then you did a little bit at Playrix, right?
Yeah,
And then kind of moved over to Sheepyard.
yeah.
Um, cool. Well, that's awesome. Um, so maybe we could just start thinking about things from a high level. So a secret that maybe isn't that much of a secret, but just about everyone that I know that works in gaming has these like secret aspirations of one day starting their own studio and having the creative freedom to make, the kinds of games that they want and the way that they want to make them and whatnot. Um, let's pretend for a moment that I've, gone out and I've started a new studio coming more from the product background, as a lot of founders seem to be these days. Um, you know, I've now made a game. It's pretty fun. I think it's ready for soft launch, but what is like the first step that you would tell me that I should be thinking about from a user acquisition perspective, or like what's the what's the thing that UA should be doing at, maybe each stage of the game creation process? So, should UA be involved before a game prototype is even made?
Uh, I think like it's always start with the idea, right? Like if you have an idea what you game want to create, then you start into creating it, but without knowing actually like your audience and why do you want this game to be created, like what your goals, it's like making money or just for fun as hobby. And from this point of view, I think when you have already the goal and you know the plans what you want to do with the game, there comes like advertising, right? People, not only UA team, like but product team, designers, ASO team. It's actually a lot of like departments which you need to consider to acquire. And from the UA perspective, I will say it's really good to start involve UA when the game in the very beginning of like prototype, because without, I think, knowing your audience, having like researches, having some early tests, you don't really know what direction you should go and how to actually prepare the not just nice game in your opinion, but which audience will accept and actually uh, like having fun to play and stay within your game. So I think from the early prototype of the game, it's already nice to have UA person and already closely collaborate with UA team.
Yeah. How would I figure out, what audience my game is for, or, how would I figure out like what that audience wants? Like, if I've got this like game idea, like, should I even start with a game idea, or should I start with like picking some sort of audience first?
I'm not sure how actually, like from product perspective, guys are creating the games, what they aim. But I think when you start in creating some game, you actually most of the cases it's yourself like to play this game, and you already kind of know the audience because you've been maybe communicate with the people you were playing like with your friends, so you have kind of like already uh, signs, like already what kind of people can play this game. And you can do a lot of options how you can actually look for your audience. It's a marketing research. You can look to your competitors, you can look to different nice platforms like Discord, seeing what people like there, what games they like. Yeah, Twitch, Discord, Steam, it's really a lot of nice platforms where you can learn about the audience. And yeah, start from like step by step learning about the audience of this genre. But to be honest, like now, I'm speaking of myself, I really like to play different genre games. Like I play we have Storebound, it's a car strategy game. I play outside of work, I play board games, chess. I really like mobile games, puzzle games. I like idle games. It depends kind of my mood. So it's in I think for gamers, you can find like really it's diversity of gamers. You can acquire people who played role-playing games before, but they actually really interested in now playing your game like car strategy or shooting game.
Mm. So let's say that I have, I'm making a match 3 game, and maybe I'm even lucky enough that I've, played a lot of match 3 games, and I maybe have an understanding of what people like. But you did kind of call out the importance of kind of doing research. Is there a certain type of research that should be done, or a certain way that that research should be done? Like, is it really just, finding those people on Discord, or I guess for match 3, you probably wouldn't find them on Discord. You probably find them on like a Facebook group or something.
Yeah,
Like, is it just kind of finding them and trying to do like user interviews, or, is there something else that you've found is effective, or is it not even that far and it's more of like doing like I don't know if you guys have ever used like a Geek Lab or a Store Maven or something, where like you kind of create like a mock-up of the game or the art style, and like you just do some dummy Facebook ads to see like what sort of CPI are people going to respond to, or gameplays they're going to respond to.
Yeah, we actually did not use Geek Club yet. I think we will consider it for the future. It's pretty nice platform. But what we did, of course, we did on the early development of the game, we did some campaigns test on Facebook to actually acquire audience, to understand what audience stays with us. We did early retention test, CPI test, and actually to understand our demographic as well. It's really important thing to do, but there are a lot of articles which you can find on the internet, even like articles, reports for the genres, and it's really nicely and straightforward talking about the different people, different audience within the markets. Even like you can find what audience, what players like to play in US or Japan or Korea. And yeah, it's a lot of ways to learn about the audience. And of course, tests always will help you and receive more accurate data than just articles, like for your specific product, right? Because you never know, you can find some article that those kind of players and why they play, for instance, 3-match game, right? And you do your 3-match game, but actually users might not like it. It's you have to test it. You have to test in the beginning and see what people like, collecting the feedbacks of users, and improve your product.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so moving from the concept layer, where maybe I've figured out, hey, I ran some like test ads, did some stuff on Geek Lab, talked to some people. Seems like they like this sort of art style. Seems like, here's a problem in a match 3 game where, players don't like the cost of boosters or something like that. So I'm going to give them the ability to watch a rewarded video before each level to get like access to free boosters or something like that, as like giving players a little bit more, like, can I change up the experience? Probably needs to be a lot more than that, but pretend that this is what we figured out. I go in, I've created now a mock-up of the game. Maybe I've got like 30 minutes of gameplay and I want to actually get it out there and start getting some like real user feedback, kind of soft launching it. What should UA be doing at this stage, or is there something they should be doing?
Yeah, I think the first experience of player is really crucial for the for the product, because you can actually receive the feedback from the users and understand what you need to improve in your game. So when you work in developing the game, and it's crucial to understand what KPIs you need to look at to know, like, for instance, you see that tutorial did not finish, tutorial finish really small percent of the players, right? So you actually need to go there deeper and understand why it's happening. Or it can be like a tutorial finish like 90% of users, but like a level first finish only 30% of users. So it's really, you need to close work with BI team as well, like a UA team with BI team, to build this funnel of the user, to understand the first time experience of users, where they drop off, where they have good progression, and learn from the early funnel, the user. So it will show you what you need to improve in the product. You can even like, it's good if you test also monetization side of the game, not just engagement. So early monetization can also show you, maybe you need to change the store of the game, you need to change the currency, the prices of in-apps, or you need to work on your ads monetization. Yeah, so first time user experience is really important, and collaborate with BI team, with product team is important.
So I guess a question within like this, I want to go into a soft launch, and thinking a little bit more about like creatives here or whatnot. So I think soft launch is important for a few things. Like generally, like I want to know what my CPI is. I want to test my like technical infrastructure, like are there like critical bugs and crashes and stuff, and I want to start getting a gauge of retention. And then, eventually if retention's there, then maybe like monetization and testing live ops as we get closer to global launch or whatnot. But like in that early stage, like maybe we're past the technical piece. And now we're kind of on to like CPI retention type testing. Like what sort of creative would you recommend to create to like get out there? Like, is it, and this is coming a little bit more from like the hyper casual side of things, but their typical approach is like take a 30-second clip of actual gameplay, try to make it exciting, and just like put that in the ad, because that's going to show players exactly what they're getting and probably going to like bring that. Like, is that the right approach, or is there something else that you found from an early soft launch perspective for creating the creatives?
I totally agree, and I'm lucky I've been working on the game from the really like technical test till launch. And actually in technical test, it's like you don't need really long time to do technical tests, just acquire some volume of users and see if there's no crashes, right? Yep. And and then when you already starting working, like you starting test of retention CPIs in the very beginning, like you already want to see it. So you want to show users actual gameplay, because especially when game in development and you need those feedbacks, it's in the early access, you even asking for users for feedbacks, right? So it's, in my opinion, it's really good to show user the actual gameplay, your main features of the gameplay. And if you know that those features, those elements might change within the development of the game, it's good to mention it also, maybe in your app store. So yeah, it's nice to show gameplay in the beginning, even like when you do already launch the game. It's also great to like show how user can interact with your game, with your elements. And to make sure to also collaborate with ASO team, because you can show ads like with the actual gameplay, and like on the store, user go to the store, you have great CTR on your creatives, but user go to the store and he doesn't see any related like thing within your game what he saw on the ad. So it will be like he won't install it. So yeah, ASO is really important.
Yeah, thinking about ASO and stuff, like are there some things that you've seen that have worked really well, and things that you've seen that have worked really poorly? Like something, oh, I've got this great ad that brings it in, and then this thing actually drove players away, or I had a decent performing ad, but after we made this change, like everyone was like installing it once they got to the app page.
I think it was more not when we did campaigns on Facebook. It was some situation with ASA campaigns, because we were working on keywords, obviously. And then when user went to the store page and he did not see related information to this keyword, so he were just dropping, right? He did not install the game. But normally, because I mentioned it's important to work with ASO team, product team in UA, we always making sure to show ads which are really related to our ASO store, to our ASO. And we work like on the screenshot, on icon, we testing screenshots, and sometimes we even using those screenshots to show on ad to the users. So we really try to like show the most related information to the game.
Yeah. Do you find that the screenshots are more important, or is it more about like the text and the description that's in there? Or, do you find that people don't even really read the description?
I think it depends of the game. Also depends of the like if you acquiring users. So probably users. I'm personally not really reading the description on the store page.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I think it's small percent who actually reads, maybe like 20-30% of users who actually read the description. And maybe they read if you use headline like text on your screenshots, really clear, short, about the game, they probably read it. But I think you always need to test, like not always putting like headline on screenshots, but actually test what works better. If you show like really clear screenshot without the text, it can work as well.
So Apple recently introduced the ability to have like multiple store pages.
Yeah.
Have you used those at all, in the sense of like, let's pretend you have a Disney game that's out there, and you show an ad for Princess Jasmine. Would you then send them to the store page that has screenshots that's like showing Princess Jasmine or maybe some other princess characters or whatnot? Or would you just send them to your main Disney game app that like all the ads are kind of sending to?
I'm personally not doing ASO, but yeah, and we did not, I think, use the product yet, but it's good point. Like if you show this in ad and you see that ad is winning, it shows really good KPIs. So why not to replicate it to the store, right? And so user can see it.
Yeah, we so in user-wise, you can kind of create segments off of anything. And so we talk a lot about player experience and stuff. So we're actually working with a game that's doing something like that, where if you see the ad for Princess Jasmine, once you ultimately download the game, you complete the Fatui, we then drop you into a new user event where you're actually working towards earning Princess Jasmine. But if you saw the ad for, let's say, the Simba character or whatnot, you get put into a different event where you're working towards them. And eventually the different players will kind of unify at like, day 10 or something like that. But it's like from the moment the player sees the ad all the way to like day 10, you've got this like unique customized experience that's oriented hopefully to like your player's persona or the things that you most like the best.
But you need to learn what character actually this person will like to receive, right? Like to achieve. So yeah, that comes to live ops. I think it's really great because you can really improve first-time user experience with this action. Like when you segment users and targeting, it's really can improve, retention or even better metrics like monetization metrics.
Yeah. Have you guys ever used 12 traits to kind of like better understand your audience?
No, not yet. In Sheepyard, we did not use it. We have great BI team, and we now actually we have one of the game, store-bound game. It's collectible card game and made by Paladin Studio. And we now implemented the analysis. It's RFM analysis, and it's basic analysis, but really effective. So we can segment the users based on this analysis and understand like behavior of user and potential of their payments.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I would also check out 12 traits. I imagine that most guests that are listening already use them because they're, used by like all the big studios and stuff. But they do some really cool stuff where they basically will give your user base like surveys, as well as like take a look at their data and behaviors and stuff, and they'll come back and they'll say like, okay, these players are really competitive, and these players are really altruistic and stuff. Like I know one of the cool things that they when I was talking to Joe, their CEO was referencing was there was a shooter game that used them, and so they found out that a lot of their players, especially their paying players, were really altruistic, and so they actually created a creative in their ad that instead of the typical like shooting everything's kind of crazy like typical, they made it about the player actually helping another player, that altruistic queue, and they dropped their CPIs by like 50% while acquiring more users, which I thought was super cool. But then you can also then orient your game to have more of those altruistic moments, or you can do more of that ASO type stuff for those altruistic people. So that end-to-end experience. So I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, when you personalize, events and offers, it has to work well. Like if I will receive some personalized event, I will really appreciate it. So it's really nice to understand your players. I think is the main key to understand your players. That's why we're doing this analysis.
Okay, so back to our game. Let's assume we've done the gameplay. We've got ASO that's like at least working reasonably well. And actually, on that note, would you say that there's a certain percentage that you should like shoot for on any given thing? Like, if I show this ad to people, like what's the appropriate click-through rate, and then of those people that click through, is there like a target of the people that land on the app page to those that actually then go on and download the game or whatnot? Like, is there an ideal funnel that you would look for from a metric perspective?
Yeah, I will definitely focus on the metrics, CTR, IPM. It's actually how many people downloaded your game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because it can be really high percentage of CTR, like because you showing really attractive, video, and even using some misleading, some company does it, and then you see that your IPM is pretty low. So you should do analysis, understand why. You should also look to your App Store page. You should understand why user actually did not install it. So it's happening a lot. And yeah, that's why I mentioned that it should be related like ASO, like your store page with ads you send into the users.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay, so let's pretend that our game's looking good and we're getting ready to do a global launch. So what would you be doing as the user acquisition manager, like at this point, like we're getting ready for a global launch and then going into the global launch, like what is UA doing at these different steps going into that?
Yeah, like during launch, you actually, it's good to have several tests, like not just technical, but then you go into engagement test, and then you go into monetization test. And if you see that the product is ready, if the retention is good, if the monetization is good, so your product is ready to launch. And during soft launch, you test in several markets, right? Not all the markets. Makes sense. Then you plan to do worldwide campaigns to actually to see. It can change, even like retention within the market can be different. So it's nice to also do research, market researches, not only in the tier one geos for yourself, but market researches, it's crucial for worldwide campaign. And also you work on the creatives, because you used to work within like 1-2 markets, show those creatives, and you never know if it will work like worldwide, like if it will work in Asian markets, in Europe, for instance. So just prepare the creative strategy, prepare a market strategy, and test, see what works.
Yeah, can we?
About creative, sorry. I normally testing a lot of creatives during soft launch, so I actually will know what can potentially work and use it in the global launch, those creatives.
Yeah, so kind of during that soft launch period where the product team is testing that monetization and retention and stuff, you're probably also testing a bunch of different, types of creatives to try to understand what works, right?
Yeah, as much as possible.
Do you have any like tips or strategies of like how you manage and create, creatives? I feel like this is really daunting to a lot of new teams that maybe don't have experience with that. Like, do you find that it's like, let's say I want to do a 10-second ad. Do you kind of modularize, like break up where you've got like a standard beginning, and then there's something that you test and change in here, and then like the last little 5 seconds or whatever is like an in piece that's again kind of standard, and you can kind of like pop one and pop in, or like what's your typical approach that you found to work best with like iterating and testing multiple creatives?
Yeah, we actually changed, we testing a lot, and I even we had different strategies. We tested a lot of variations of like winning creative, for instance. And as you know, and I think guys who watching us know as well that first seconds, like 3 up to 5 seconds, are really key driven seconds, so you really need to make sure to catch user attention. I think like 40 maybe percent watching actually creative till the end, like video, so you can also interact on the like end of the video, but I will really focus on the beginning. And you can test different, you can use one concept of the creative and you can actually change those 3 seconds, like show maybe different characters, show different features of the game. It can also show you what people likes, what feature they prefer in your game. You can learn about your users as well when you interact and changing things to test. Yeah, but what I found nice, we do it. We do different tests within different games because we have different genres. But what I noticed that like actual gameplay worked the best. Like when you show an actual gameplay, when you interact a lot, like in the video, with the main features, and always nice to show your unique thing in the game, because it's a lot of similar genres, right? Like a similar mechanic of the games, so it's nice to find something unique in your game. That's why I work with product team as well on this point a lot, and actually show it. If you have some unique quests or events, it's really nice to show it.
Do you find that the total length of the creative matters at all, or has an impact? Like you mentioned, the first 3 to 5 seconds are the maybe like most important, but do you find when you go from 10 to 30 to 45 or 60 seconds, like is there a difference in performance or anything like that?
Yeah, I tested we saw that only, for instance, 6 seconds were watched in the videos in some tests. And we redid it, this creative, and we added the gameplay which we show after 6 seconds in the beginning. So we also wanted to see if people actually watch it, how it will work, and sometimes it did not work or sometimes it worked. So yeah, just you should check this share of watch of the specific video and try to also maybe redo this creative and put those elements which was not shown, showed in the beginning of the video.
Are you
So
able to get the insights as far as like when people stopped watching, if it's in like a rewarded format where like the player is forced to have the full 30 seconds, but like, are you able to figure out at what point they just like put their phone down and they stop caring?
Yeah, I used to work a lot of with Facebook, And actually in the report, you can see on the creative report, you can see how long specific video been watched. So it's like only 6 seconds or 8 seconds. That's how it shows us what elements we might replace and put in the beginning to see if actually they will catch the user attention.
So if they stopped watching it at 8 seconds, maybe you need to start at like 5 or 6 seconds and be like, okay, what do we put in there? Let's try putting something else in and see if we can get them to watch the 10 seconds.
Yeah, for
Gotcha.
sure, because it might be missed and those features might be missed, but they actually can bring you great KPIs.
Yeah, but generally you find that the longer that people will watch the ad, the higher your IPM will probably be.
Depends of the actually creative. I think depends of the video, but most of the times, to be honest, users watching like first 5-6 seconds. From my experience, of course, it can work differently for other people. But in my experience, that's, for instance, for strategy game, Storebound, we found, of course, that user watch longer time video because we can show some tips or some special events in this video. And it's if it's like a game like, you know, story about the game, or you really show like kind of tutorials, so it can be watched until the end, or cinematic video. So yeah, it depends of the video, it depends of the genre of the game.
Cool. Do you find that having a portrait versus landscape plays into effect of how effective a creative can be, or is that something that you should be testing?
For sure, you should be testing this, because like you can put portrait, landscape, square videos into one test, and you can see how your metrics are changing, your IPM is changing just because of the ratio. But from sometimes if you game, for instance, in vertical like itself, so it's sometimes difficult to do horizontal video. It will just look terrible. So if your game is vertical, and what we do is mostly we do vertical creatives, it just looks nicer. I mean, depends of the networks, right? As well, like in some networks, portrait videos works better, in some horizontal, and also placements works differently. So you need to test it. Like, you know, I cannot really like guarantee that portrait will work the best for your game. You actually need to test it.
Yeah. What's your experience or recommendations around like different types of placements, like a playable versus rewarded video versus like an interstitial? Is it just you got to test everything and see what works, or do you find certain things work best for certain types of ads or genres or whatnot?
I think just some people will tell you that playable's not working for them at all. Like they bring in really bad ROAS or like retention, but some people will assume you that playable works the best for them. For us, personal works really good videos, and we actually can show a lot of nice things in the video. Also make them kind of interactive, because you can show them the main, like, you know, features, and they will look really engagement as an interactive videos. Yeah, I think you also need to test it really. And playable ads we did not do in Sheepyard, but I had an experience with playable ads, and I think depends of the genre of the game again. Playable ads can fail or win. But now I think playable, I really like them, because I really personally prefer to have the chance to play the game like before I actually install it, so to understand how it works. And it's also nice for advertisers, because you can actually learn about your players when you show in some interactive creatives. If you put some different features right in the playable ads, you can actually learn what features your potential player will like.
Yeah. So I feel like in the last, 10, 15 minutes, we've talked a lot about like testing and iterating and changing your creatives and stuff. For people that maybe haven't done that before, it's maybe a very daunting task of like, how do I possibly make this many videos and these changes and things like that? So, do you have any like tips around like what size team should this be? Should it be outsourced? Are there like tools or things that you've found that work really well and can help you be faster at creating these different creatives?
I think it's depends of the company resources, right? Like if you work in the massive company which has budget and want to try something like maybe new and see, they have like great marketing team, but they actually want to see how it will look like they creative from the outsource perspective, right? So they work with the agencies. We lucky we have really great marketing team in the company in Sheepyard. So we really work a lot with them. We work really closely with them, and we create nice creatives. We have brainstorms. I do share with them the reports, and they actually understand why specific creative doesn't work. But I know a lot of people actually do mixing, like they do in-house creatives and they also do like find agencies. There are a lot of agencies who you can work with. But I mean, from my perspective, you know your product the best, and yeah, you can create pretty nice things.
Okay, so let's move our game forward into like our full-on global launch. What should UA be doing at that point in time? Because I've now gone from maybe being soft launched in like 4 countries to all the countries that I'm going to support. Like, what does that look like from a UA perspective?
I think it's also like about expanding your market, not only geo point of view, but also different networks. Try different networks, see what will work for you the best. You never know in which network you can acquire your users. Also, make sure that you actually users who you acquire staying within your game. So it's also important to do post installs activities and continue learning about your users. Yeah, I think expanding the market, expanding your metrics like LTV, retention, it's never ending like circle.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And then, once you get past that initial launch stage, so I've been hearing from a lot of, merge games are becoming very popular, right? But I hear from a lot of them that they, scale up to maybe 200,000 daily active users. They've got really good like early retention and stuff. And then they just kind of like plateau at that like 200,000. Like not many are able to get up to that like, 1 million daily active users or whatnot that are often sought for. Have you ever encountered a situation in a game where, you scaled up and then you kind of hit a plateau?
I mean, if you actually you see that your daily active users are dropping, you should actually understand why it's happening in the game, like in which level it's happening, and why they're not staying in the game, and maybe send them some special offers to actually keep them. And yeah, but I think it's also a winning situation, because when you acquire such a big volume which you mentioned, it's also helping your organic uplift. So depends of the genre of the game, of monetization. If you monetized on ads mostly, so volume is really important for you, and keep trying to reward your users to stay. Send them some offers, send some ads which you will see that there is offers, do retargeting. And for in-apps, it's really important volume and quality of the user. So it's really completely different strategy.
Yeah. As you kind of get further on into the live game, and you sort of mentioned this before, so I'm going to assume that it's a yes, but do you find that it's effective to kind of start to blend in your time limited events into like your advertising and stuff? So like if I've got a big Halloween event that I know is going to run, over the week of Halloween, like would you create some new creatives that add some of those elements in to try to either re-engage churn players or to get new players in? What sort of success or things would you do with that?
Of course, I think the seasonality is really great opportunity for advertisers, for the company. And if you know there is some seasonality, some special days are coming, not just Halloween, but actually specific special day in this geo. So it's really nice to actually send this in ads to this market, to these users, to show that you prepare something for them, and it can bring really nice users. It can bring really nice experience of users, and they will really appreciate it that you showed it, that they have some diversity within your game, that it's also fun for them, that they can actually play some different events within your game. But I think it's also like depends of segmentation of the player, what you will send them. So it's really important to understand your segmentation and what you want, like what event do you want to send them. It can also, of course, be general, like event, like Halloween event for all the users. But sometimes it's actually done a bit wrong, because you play in the game and you have to like pass certain of levels to actually achieve this event. So it
I
will
was
be
going to
really,
ask.
yeah, it will be like, if I see that I see the ad with the like Halloween event, and I'm going actually excited playing this event, and I'm like see that I need to pass some levels till I like enable this event. I'm just, I'm past, I don't have time for this. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
really important to send it to the, right time. If you have such like short event, it's nice if user will do it right away.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, I know we're just about out of time here. I feel like we could go for another hour or so, but this is super, super great. I have one kind of final question for you. And that is, at what level should the UA person be in sync with, the CPIs and LTVs? Because, I think a lot of times I hear from people that think about, okay, well, my CPI is $1 and my LTV is like 150, and I just need to like scale it up. But I feel like that's not really actually the case, because different channels and even different segments within those channels will have different CPIs and different LTVs. So, how do you manage the complexity and make sure that the users that I'm acquiring are actually profitable or and actually kind of being retained appropriately? Or, how do you handle all of that? Because I think it's a lot more complex than just the two numbers, right? You've got two
Yeah.
numbers for each of those different segments and channels.
That's why it's important to understand what users you afford to acquire and what users you need to acquire within the network. Actually, it's different users within the networks. Like there are users, for instance, on Facebook with higher LTV, and for instance, in some network, it's lower LTV. And you need to look to the network, what kind of users they have, like also about your genre, if it's like in-apps and it's important LTV for you, and it's important like ROAS for you. So go with these major networks which have higher quality users, and make sure to acquire users. You can acquire users for $1, for instance, but like then when you actually expanding your LTV and you trying to keep the user, you trying to, make sure that they do some actions within your game, you can be in a winning position. So it's sometimes not working that your LTV it's like 50 cents, right? And you acquire for $1 user. So try to actually expand this LTV for this user.
That's interesting. I love that. Cool. Well, one final question, because we are in the Mastering Retention podcast, of course, and that is, what's one tip or trick that you found over your years in games that helps to increase player retention? Like, how do you keep players playing for longer?
I think it's really like crucial, first of all, crucial to understand your audience, as I mentioned a lot, because it's really main key. It's great to have a great product, so collaborate with the product team and yeah, understand your players, communicate with your players. It's a lot of great ways to do it. And yeah, understand the psychology of your player to keep them within your game. But if you have nice product, it will always good retention. It was always like loyal users in your game.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so much, Varia. This has been truly a pleasure. If people do want to get in touch with you with any, thoughts or questions, is there a good way for them to do that?
I have LinkedIn. Yeah, you can paste my LinkedIn later on. Just DM me on Slack channels. I have a lot of Slack channels. Yeah. So yeah, just message me on email or anytime. I'm really open to meet new people and talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been truly a pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. Bye.